Did you cry? Literally every yeah. After I get my sick friends. I'd like to family practitioner class. Yes. That's hilarious. Have you seen it?
Just built a lighthouse, so people, they're happier.
Yeah, it was
I feel like skyscrapers they more because they're happier.
She went in to get a regular checkup.
You have to deal with like that's just literally just
Really rich. She like knew like 5 years ago and then there's like all these
or we would be I never the roller coaster tycoon. Roller coaster tycoon. I never played that. I never got into it. The first city that I ever got
into. Did you get watching this? This is our guys' professional.
And then I like
Today we're doing like this live streaming of our video, so the students that aren't able to come to class, hopefully after today, starting today, we should have the videos posted more quickly. Okay, so it should be like a whole different, it's kind of a whole different setup. But it'll look a little bit differently, so you guys, more of you are going to be in our video as well. So just so you know, Jamie agreed to give us a thought and prayer, so thank you, Jamie.
Okay, there's this quote from Thomas S. Monson in his conference address in 2001, and it's about having compassion, and he says, "I extol those who, with loving care and compassionate concern, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and house the homeless. He who notes the sparrow's fall will not be unmindful of such service." So I was thinking about one of my clinical experiences earlier this week, and we had a lady that had a lot going on and was, in the very most nicest way I could say it, was kind of gross. Just sorry, it just was, and nobody wanted to go in there. Every time something would happen, they'd all be like, "Well, you go, no, you go, you go." And the thing is she was so nice, and it sucks that she had those things going on, and maybe some of it could be helped and maybe some of it couldn't be helped, but our job isn't to decide, you know, who deserves our help and who doesn't. So I just think it's good to remember that they're all children of God and that we are there to help them and show them love and not be judgmental. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay. Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful that we could gather here today as students, and we're thankful that we've come this far, and that will help us to continue on in our journey, and we're thankful for the efforts that Sister Forbush has made in our behalf, and we're so thankful for our many blessings. We pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That thought goes along perfectly with our discussion for today. Talking about civility, conflict resolution, and negotiation. And so there's always going to be conflicts, isn't there? I quickly went through most of your e-preps and all of your discussions, and I really appreciated your willingness to share the conflicts and the things that, and your thoughts, your ideas. And so that's a really important thing. Sometimes it's hard to open yourself up and to admit and express that you have these conflicts or these problems, but we all do. We all have them in our lives. In fact, there's been a really public one going on at the University of Utah that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And so I'm really glad that Joseph is here because he's been there and seen it. It's been all over KSL and in many ways it's just a great example of conflict resolution. So a couple of little things that I need to talk to you about really quickly first is I need you just to be very aware of making sure that you're doing your own work. With our e-preps especially, I love that you work together, that you talk to each other, but realize that your second e-prep is going to be turned into Turnitin. And so if you've been working together and talking to each other about it, just be really careful that you word it in your own way and it's not worded exactly like anybody else's. If the similarity is high, it may look like you're not doing your own work. And so just be really careful about that, okay? I'd love for you to work together. I think it's a great thing to do to talk about these things. It's certainly part of our learning model, and we need, you know, but it is an assignment that you're turning in that does need to be your own. Okay, anybody have any questions or comments about that? One other thing is be sure and look really closely at the directions and rubrics for our discussions and different assignments that we have in class. Occasionally, I know already there's been some people who maybe didn't get full points when they thought they had fully done the assignment. And so just, you know, pay really close attention to those, the assignment directions. It's just a good skill to learn as well too. It'll always serve you really well in nursing. It's kind of like medication administration. We have to do all those 5 checks, make sure 6 checks, whatever, make sure that we're doing everything very completely and precisely. And so if you ever have any questions about them, please let either Sister Miller or I know. Yes, Jamie?
Well, I got a 20. And I feel like that was like, I didn't even show up to the discussion board. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, I replied to people, I mean, it was kind of, I don't know. I don't know, like, anybody else get a 20?
Me.
I mean, I feel like I know. But I was like, that's like you don't even, I did too. But it's like you didn't even show up to the discussion board. I know it's just a discussion board and I'm just as annoyed as everybody else about discussion board. But a 20, it's like,
Was that this?
you
was
should
that
get a
the
20
last
just for
discussion?
showing up. I mean, I at least inputted to the class and replied to my people, and I wasn't like, I agree, have a good day. I mean, I actually, so I'm just saying, I mean, I was really frustrated about that.
I know, it's simple. It was because we didn't separate our entries, right? Is that why? Yeah. And that was the
But a
reason why I
20?
did you get a
20? I mean, it's fine, I know,
You know
it's
how you
fine.
put them
I
in two
just, it was
different
really
things?
frustrating to get a 20 and be like,
Okay,
did
do
you
you know
even
what?
show up?
I think you're, which,
You know how
are
you
you
use
using
them?
any particular model here? This is a conflict resolution. Let's resolve some conflict. I feel that there is some frustration.
Well, and it's not directed at you, I was just
Oh, no, I
frustrated
know, I
that.
totally get it. I'm not taking it personally at all.
Okay, I hope not. You're all smiles and love. I think you're so great. I just was frustrated that a 20 is like you just didn't show up.
Yeah. So, yes, Ryan.
In my personal experience, anytime like I've gotten some bad grades or some unclear grades, and I went and talked to Sister Miller about it, and she just told me how to correct it, and she said that she would change the grades. So I think that you
emailed
should
her.
just.
I did,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
I feel like going and talking to her would help us all.
yeah, we can't correct the discussion board. Everything else that I've gotten bad grades on, I've, she's
Yeah.
let me correct,
Okay.
and that's great, cause it's a learning curve this semester. I feel like we have a lot of things, and we're trying to keep track of everything that we have.
Yes.
But I was just, you can't fix a discussion board, and
It's
it's
just so
fine, it's
different.
just a discussion board, but I was just frustrated that it was so
Low
harshly
percentage.
graded.
Well, it's like, it's so different from any other semester. It used to be, you do your your EAQs, and then it's
Yeah.
done. This one's all about writing, and I don't think that we've been so graded so hard on our discussion boards and writing, things
Well,
like
I
that, when we're
emailed
doing
her.
it so frequently.
And like the reason she said I got 20% is because we didn't read the directions clearly enough,
Yeah.
right? And you didn't put it in 2 different entries. So she's like implying that the discussion board is mainly to see if you could follow directions. That's how she made it seem for me. So this discussion board, I looked at those directions like 6 times. I made sure it was exactly right.
So, yes, Alex.
Well, that, just kind of to go off of really quick, the EAQs and the E-Preps, if you would prefer EAQs over E-Preps for 4th semester, write it in your evaluation for the course. I was told to make an announcement of this during class from Brother Sanders.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, absolutely, if there's things that you feel strongly about, you do have thank you for bringing them up in class and talking openly, and I'm glad that you feel like you can, and I hope that you feel like you genuinely are being listened to, because we do want to make it better. We make changes. In fact, Sister Miller and I are going to meet tomorrow morning and go over things that we want to change in this course for next semester. So we really do appreciate your input and your ideas, and I'm glad you feel like you can openly express your frustration, and I do understand, and I hope that we can turn that around, and that going forward you'll know what's expected. Sometimes it's easier to find out right in the beginning that no, that wasn't what was expected, and it might be kind of harsh. One of the things I told a couple of the students that I meet with to do their study plans was, I thought the due date was Monday morning. I know somewhere in our class it said that the due date for study plans was Monday morning. So Monday morning, first thing, I went in and I put a 0 in anybody who hadn't met with me that needed to meet with me on their study plans. And then I immediately got an email saying, hey, it says May 8th. And I looked in, it does. So I took out the 0s, but then if anybody hasn't met with me by Monday morning, May 8th, I'll put them back in. But mostly it was to get attention. So I kind of feel like that was the same thing with the 20% on this discussion board. It definitely got your attention, and going forward, I hope that it'll be better and more clear, and you'll know more what's expected.
If they are going to be graded so harshly, is there some sort of rubric or something that you'd like us to follow?
There is a rubric.
There is a rubric?
Yes.
Just, I know there's instructions, but I just mean where the points are,
Yes, there actually is a rubric.
Okay, I just saw the directions.
Yeah. Does anybody know right where the rubric is?
The rubric for what?
For the discussion board? Yeah, there is a rubric that does have it broken down with the points. Okay, and I can help you find that after class. We'll meet after class and I'll help you find that, because there is a rubric that does have the points broken down.
Oh, there's already every Oh, I thought it was, I was just going to write everything. Because that's a lot of points. Anyway.
So, I don't know if everybody saw the announcements too, but we have 2 guest speakers coming to class today. So we're going to finish up with our class by 11:15, and then we have Suzanne Gray coming from, I can't say the name of it, Bresnius Kidney Care. And to tell you the truth, I've never even met her. She just called me, and but she had a very interesting proposal to talk to you about. Bresnius and she'll say it, and she'll probably say it completely differently. And so we'll just wait till she gets here and I'll let her say it. But this company is throughout the whole Intermountain West, and she's like the Intermountain West representative. She told me that they have a year-long nurse residency program for new graduates, and I thought, well, that's really, kind of an exciting thing that I thought you might be interested in hearing. And so she's going to take just half an hour from 11:15 to 11:45, and then at 11:45, Steve Davis is coming from our alumni office, and he'll do a presentation and explain to you about LinkedIn and how that works, and about how you can use that in networking for future jobs and so forth. The students last semester he came, and the students loved it. We're very engaged. He's really an excellent speaker and does just a great job. So that's kind of our plan for today. So we've got 45 minutes to discuss the rest of our conflict resolution and go over your e-preps and the things that are important to you. Okay? So as going over your e-preps, this one was with our 5 different outcomes. It was a bit of a mixed bag. Some of you had them prioritized quite differently, but overall and in general, the outcome that seemed the most important to the most of you was compare and contrast different ways of managing conflicts. So that one was our outcome that you seemed to care the most about. And the second one was to describe how to use negotiation and to resolve conflicts. So how many of you watched the Margaret Neal video? Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm glad some of you did. Anybody that didn't, please watch it. She does a great job. It's a little specific to women, but, well, it's pretty specific to women, but you guys in nursing, you're gonna be working with a lot of women. So if it helps you to understand women better and being married and so forth, it's always a good thing too. I think it'll help you to understand some of the things and working with women better. And it was kind of an interesting thing. This last week I spoke with my daughter. My middle daughter lives in Tucson, and she's a web designer. And she has always just done freelance things, and she has a couple of her own businesses. She's she's my most driven child who just does everything. And she has, for the past year, has been working as a contract employee for a company, and this was kind of a new experience for her because she's kind of been her own little person until this past year. And she works from home and basically does her work while her children are at school. And she had her 1-year interview with the owner of the company via Skype last week. And she said she got done with the interview, and her boss was, very happy with what she'd done and had a lot of great things to say to her. And she got done with the interview and she said, okay, thank you, and ended the interview. And then she got off and she's like, I never asked if I was getting a raise. I've been doing this for a year. My pay's okay. I like my job. It works great for my family. And she's like, no, I need to ask. So she said she got on, did like a 2-minute email and said, I neglected to ask during our interview if I was eligible for a raise at this time. And she said within a minute, he had replied back to her, and not only did she get a raise, but she got a bonus. So sometimes it's simply being brave enough to ask. And it's hard to ask, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that the Margaret Neal video talks a lot about. So that's a really good thing. So
I'm going to just interject. So in that, she starts out by telling about she and a friend or a colleague. Her friend negotiated for higher wages. Margaret did not, and she said that was like a really big learning lesson, because within a few years, her friend was making $30,000 more than her or something, and she said by the end of their career, their working career, her friend will have made $1 million more than her. some huge number. I'm guessing at numbers right now, but, I think you would really find it instructive to watch it. So that instead of silently being frustrated, feeling like you do need a raise, but not knowing how to negotiate for it, appropriately, I think you would find this really helpful for your future careers.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it really is. It really is such an excellent video. So let's go through our definitions. Since we're really kind of limited on time, I don't want to take time on things that you're already feeling really comfortable about. And as I read through your definitions, they all seemed really good. The one that maybe I had concerns with a couple was the toxic workplace. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on toxic workplace? Have you ever been in an environment that you felt like was toxic, Lindsay?
It was actually when I was a nurse's aide on the med surg floor back at home, and it was not a good work environment. The nurses didn't treat the nurses' aides very well. They delegated stuff to them that should not have been delegated to us. And then also though too, what played into that was that because of the shortage, like there was one day where we had 13 patients I think on the floor. There's only 2 nurses and I was the only aide. So it was like, it was just kind of chaos. And then like relationship with doctors wasn't good. Like right after I left, there was an incident with one of our surgeons, and he usually doesn't really get along with the nurses anyway. He usually is like this, like he will only let, there's like 2 nurses in the whole staff that he will let have his patients. Like it's gotten to that point. And then one day he came in with a gun. Like they were just asking him, like he was talking to one of the aides, and they're asking him like what he was doing, like they're just like in casual conversation, like what he was gonna do after work. And he goes, "Oh, I'm going to the shooting range," and they're like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Yeah, I wanted to see," and he took out his gun. And so
in a threatening manner?
Well, the thing is because of his personality, and then the fact that he was taking out a gun, that it was like it wasn't really clear as to what his motive was because he does have a temper and he does, he's kind of one of those people. But it was just not a good work environment at all.
Okay, that's a fabulous description of a toxic work environment. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, generally it doesn't take a gun to make work environment toxic, but that definitely will push it over the edge. So, okay. I think that really helps clarify it completely. Yes, Joseph, did you have, no?
No, I've never been in a work, I know my mother has though, so I've been able to see how it's affected her personally, and it's just, a toxic work environment really takes a toll, not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally on a person, and it just, you get burned out fast, you just get worn out, high turnover rate, because people just can't handle that type of environment, so.
Perfect, thank you. So if you're applying for a job, what kind of questions could you ask to identify if this place could possibly be a toxic work environment? What might be something that would lead you to believe it was a toxic work environment?
You can start off by asking about the nurse-patient ratio, I guess the workload, because that could, if it was not balanced well, it could lead to being aggressive, I guess, or something like that.
That's a good point, Lydia. Very good. Yes, Alex?
Definitely the turnover is a really big sign, but also knowing who you report to, because if there's no designated leadership, then a bunch of people start trying to take that role. And being in a position where you have a supervisor and a manager, and they're both asking 2 different things that are contrary of you, then that's going to make it even worse. So knowing who you're reporting to before you even start would help.
That's a great point. Thank you, Alex. Randy, did you have an idea too?
I was just going to mention turnover rate as well.
Okay, that really is one. Oh, Ryan, did you?
Oh yeah, I was just saying. So we're planning on moving back right after we graduate, and a lot of new grad programs in California are like doing applications right now. So we were doing some of the applications, and one of the things that, I was submitting my application to Scripps Hospital, or just going through like the initial, before you can even put your application in, they make you take a personality test.
Oh, wow.
And it was like 100 and something questions. And I was doing some research, and a lot of places use this test, but what they do is they want to see if your personality is going to fit into their environment to try to avoid any kind of toxic work environment happening at all. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's great. That actually reminds me of just before I came here to BYU, Idaho, my position was Chief Nursing Officer, and I had the opportunity to go to a national leadership conference, a national nursing leadership conference, and one of the speakers spoke about that, and I remember the way that she talked about it. It was kind of an interesting one. She said, you know, there's always the bless her heart, you know, and it's like, you know, she's got great technical skills, but bless her heart. Or she, you know, really is always on time, but bless her heart. And so if it's somebody who doesn't ever fit into the culture, that was how she talked about him, and talked about that if this person didn't fit into the culture of the work environment, that they weren't going to be successful, and that you can always, and she went on to say, you can always train skills that you cannot change generally. It's very difficult to change someone's personality and get them fit into the work environment. So that's really interesting. How many questions did you say that was?
It was over 100. I can't remember exactly.
Did it say?
I didn't finish it all the way in one sitting because I'd taken a really long time.
Wow.
It was like scenarios, like if this happened, what would you do? Would you talk to the nurse first? Would you talk to your supervisor first? Would you just let it go and talk about it with your coworkers and stuff like that?
Okay, great. Most healthcare facilities also do behavioral-based interviewing now too, that asks those very same types of questions. Tell me about a time that you had a conflict with a coworker. How did you resolve it? That kind of a thing. So thank you for sharing that. That's great. Yes, Vanna.
So usually when we're going to be interviewing with people, they want us usually. Like they're trying to find people who fit. So sometimes we might not get the real picture. Like I've done interviews for people that I've heard really bad things about, but to me they present themselves as like, we work really well with you and the nurses are really nice and things like that. And so it's just like, how do we as interviewees get the real picture from them? Like what can we do?
That's a great question. So you can actually consider it a first date. It's kind of the same thing as a first date interview, isn't it? It's like you're meeting this person and everybody is on their very best behavior. You're bringing your A game and you're selling yourself. So that's really kind of what an interview is like, isn't it? So it's going to take more than that one first meeting to get the full picture, both of what you are like and what the facility is like. And so that really is a great question. How are you going to find out more about this place where you're interviewing for? Yes.
Are you able to then ask, can I come by and watch the floor? I can observe. I can, are there any times that I can come and set up time to observe what's going on?
And maybe even an easier way to accomplish the same thing is, can I tour your facility? Can I talk with some of the nurses on the unit? I'd really like to get a feel for this unit. You guys are really at the perfect time to start nursing right now, because there is generally a nursing shortage almost across the country. There are places in the United States where there's not a nursing shortage right now, but the Intermountain West, just about a few years ago, was pretty well saturated with nurses. And so now there's a nursing shortage in the Intermountain West. So you are going to have your many opportunities, so you will be able to pick and choose more easily. Yes, right.
Another thing that I thought was cool about being the full picture is that ERMAC, at least on the 4th floor is all I know, is when they're doing new hires, the main floor director will do the initial interview, but then she'll have 3 just general employees that have some spare time to come in, and they can ask questions to the person that's being interviewed, and then that person can ask them questions, and it's all, she's not sitting in there, it's all off the record, and they're just sitting there So that person has an opportunity to talk to nurses that are working on the floor.
That's fabulous. I'm glad to hear that. That's a really good way to let everybody get to know each other really well, because also when those 3 nurses are speaking with that person, they're thinking, all right, this is somebody I'm going to be working with. Does this look like somebody good that I'm gonna like to work with? Okay, great. So are you guys okay if we shift to your conflicts now that you discussed? As I was going through your discussion board, I read a wide variety of conflicts. And one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is there were a number of you in here that said, I don't really have any conflict going on in my life right now. But I remember one from before, or I have a friend who had a conflict. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And in our Mormon culture, I think that a lot of us tend to be very non-confrontational. I was really shy when I was younger, and I wouldn't speak up to anybody or ever, in fact, even when I was a new nurse, I had to learn to be assertive. And sometimes you have to be assertive to address conflict, don't you? Yeah, sometimes one of the problems with conflict is we do let it go, and the other person may completely forget about it, or we may feel like it's been too long to come back and address it. And so it's important, if it's something that's bothering us or is hurting us, that we do need to address it. And so that's why these tools are so helpful in resolving conflict. Lindsay?
Also, I think it's really important to address it with the person you're having a conflict with, and not, because that actually happened, again, as when I was a nurse's aide at this hospital, a nurse was really ticked off at me for some reason because she delegated something to me that she shouldn't have. It wasn't within, nurse's aide, but they kind of abused the fact that I was going into nursing. And so they're like, oh yeah, she can do it. Well, I hadn't even started, nothing.
Yeah.
So they were just kind of treating me almost as a student nurse. And then she was ticked that I didn't do it right. So she started talking to another nurse about me. And then another nurse that's actually known me since I was a baby that worked there, she overheard what they were talking about, and then she confronted her. But like I didn't, like it was just
so
it
like
was,
you didn't even know what was going on,
even
but there was
know.
this whole other conflict going on with everybody else. Yeah, that's a really bad way to deal with conflict, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I forgot, I'm going to come back really quickly to the University of Utah. If any of you have been following the news over the past week or so of what's been happening at the University of Utah, and specifically Joseph's at the Huntsman Center doing his preceptorship, and do you want to give them the brief update of what's happening, or do you want me to?
You can probably let them know more than I know about it, because we don't really talk about it really that much. From what I understand is the person who was in charge of Huntsman Cancer Institute received an email from either CEO or president of University of Utah Hospital, just relieving them of their position in charge of Huntsman for no real reason. Just said that they're going to no longer be in charge of it. They can still finish their teaching. They can still be a teacher on the campus, but the University of Utah is going to kind of take things over from there. And there's no really explanation on why they did it or why the email was sent. However, John Huntsman himself actually put this person in charge.
John Huntsman Sr.
Yeah, of the Cancer Institute. So when he found out that they just kind of took over, he kind of got involved and stepped in a little bit. And he kind of.
I'm going to interrupt
go ahead.
and fill in a couple details really quick.
Go ahead. You know more than I do on that part.
So the only reason I know anything about this is that it's been in the news, and anything that has to do with healthcare is of particular interest, of course. And so on April 17th, Dr. Vivian Lee, oh no, sorry, oops, okay. No, it was Dr. Mary Beckerly received an email from Dr. Vivian Lee, and who was the CEO of the University of Utah Medical School, and the president, David Pershing, of the University of Utah, firing her via email. So is there a problem with that?
At least do it over text.
Okay, hold that thought. We're gonna talk about text and emails in just a minute here. Okay, so that happened on April 17th, just a couple of weeks ago. Immediately after that, the senior huntsman did get involved. He's the one, you know, he's a multimillionaire, but very philanthropic, donates millions of dollars to cancer research, cancer care. The Huntsman Cancer Institute is named after him. He went on the news and was extremely upset about this. He had appointed Dr. Vivian Lee and said as a result of this that he was going to withdraw millions of dollars of funding from the University of Utah, and he was extremely upset. So, not knowing any of the details of this case, what do you think would have happened at that point? Any ideas? Savannah?
No, Courtney was saying sit down and talk.
Let's sit down and
Let's
talk.
sit down and talk. Yes. Okay, there's a whole lack of communication going on that's causing great big conflicts, isn't it? Great big conflicts. So that's exactly the first thing is there's not communication going on. There were picketing, there were patients of the Huntsman Cancer Institute on the news. There was staff of the Huntsman Cancer Institute on the news. People were very, very upset about this person being fired. But there was no information. Nobody knew why. So that a whole lack of communication, a whole lack of information. Resultant from that, since that time, Mary Beckerly, who sent the email, has, let's see, the one who sent the email firing Vivian Lee.
Dr. Lee, Vivian Lee.
Yes, Dr. Lee. Let's see, I was going to read the wording on here exactly how it says. Oh, I've got the names backwards, don't I?
Yeah, Beckerly
Yes.
is the one who received
Dr.
the
Lee
email.
is the one who received the email. No,
Beckerly did.
sent-
Mary
sent
Beckerly
the
received
email.
it, and then
Okay.
Lee sent it.
So, so Vivian Lee sent the email. She has since resigned her position, and on Friday, the president of the university, David Pershing, has stepped down. His official statement was that he had initially planned to step down by the end of the 17-18 school year, but this timeline is preferable because he wants his replacement to be able to recruit their own candidate to replace Dr. Vivian Lee. So as a result of an email sent firing one person, the two people involved in sending that email have now resigned their positions. Most likely the position of the organization will be they're moving on to other opportunities. So that's the thing. So in a lot of ways, they've done a great job of not airing their dirty laundry.
Yeah.
While it's obvious there's a huge conflict going on here, isn't there? But nobody's really overreacted or said anything, but you can just see by the way the dominoes have fallen that this was a really bad move and created a great deal of internal strife and conflict. So Joseph, tell us about your experience at Huntsman's Cancer Center while this was all going on.
I actually had no idea it was going on until a patient's family brought it up. and they asked me about what my thoughts were about it, and I just kind of stared at them like a deer in headlights, because I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like completely disconnected from everything, right? And then nobody talks about it in the ICU as well. So I asked my preceptor about it, and he's very nice on letting me find out information on my own. So he was like, there's a paper over there, you can read it. So as I was eating my sandwich, I was kind of racing through the article, and it was very ambiguous on the whole situation. So they didn't give, like Sister Forber said, they didn't air out any dirty laundry, there weren't specifics, they weren't calling people out, putting blame on anybody. And so then I went back to him and asked him, because they really didn't give me any answers, and he just said, he kind of gave me the overall rundown of what took place from what he understands. But ever since then, nobody's talked about it. It hasn't affected anybody in the ICU. Nobody's worried about, there's no gossip going on worried about jobs. Everyone's just still focused on patient care and just continues to do what they're supposed to be doing. If that patient's family didn't bring it up, I probably would have continued to be there without ever knowing anything about it. They handled it very well without having it affect the day-to-day treatment of the patients, of the staff, anything like that. So I know my preceptor, a bunch of family was asking him if he was worried about his job, and he was just, nope, he'll be fine. And he just continued to go to work and do his thing, so.
Great, thank you for sharing that, Joseph. I'm glad that you were able to have that experience, because you can see that this organization handled a very, very significant conflict that involves senior leadership positions. Oh, and by the way, the piece that I think I forgot to mention is that the Huntsman Cancer Institute director and CEO, Mary Beckerly, who received the initial email, has been reinstated. So she does have her job.
Yep.
And the two who send the email do not have jobs. So, and yet nobody has ever said anything bad about them. The facts were stated.
Yep.
Certainly there were crucial conversations held in confidence, and so this conflict has been resolved, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's been resolved.
It's still in the process.
It's still in the process. This is a major conflict, or that's affecting a major organization. Yes, Anna?
It just makes me think about how important it is for us to know what our values are, so that when those things happen, like, it just makes me think of, like, this organization, it wasn't about to be shaken by something like this, because they knew what their mission was. Like, going back to, like, knowing those things, but it also makes me think of, like, the church itself. When we face conflict, we don't make a big deal about it. We don't think we have to hide anything. We're just very transparent, because honesty is something that we as a church, we value. And so working on an individual level, if we value honesty and being open, then when those conflicts come up, we won't be afraid of, like, being able to take a stand, because we'll know what we stand for.
That's perfect. Very well said. Thank you. Yes. Okay, and so jumping off of that, would any of you be willing to bring up the conflict that you discussed in the discussion board, or one that you are going through right now for discussion, and that we could talk about, perhaps use either the DESC or the Casperson model to resolve this conflict? I have a few of them written down. If you don't want to, you absolutely don't have to, but if there's anybody who would volunteer. I actually have some hypothetical situations we can do too, and we can use the model to go through. We have. Yes, Alex.
Excellent. So, background story. I moved from Rexburg to Idaho Falls a few years ago, and moved into a new ward, and I found out who my bishop was, went to church a couple times, and I called and asked if they would like to join my wife and I for a baseball game. And they declined because they were doing something else. And then the next week or the week after, they invited us out to dinner so that we could still have that double date and get to know each other, because we didn't know anybody in the area. And so they stated a location and a time, and we said we'd love to go. And so we went, ready to meet them at this said restaurant, and it turned into, it was actually not just us and my bishop and his wife, but it was actually 8 or more couples meeting together because it was a Melaleuca sales pitch. And so we didn't actually talk to my bishop and his wife. They were in charge of it. They had brought someone in to talk about it. It was 90 minutes. And we didn't eat anything because it was $20 a plate. And I mean, I'm going to college. My wife is working as a social worker, which they don't make very much money. And so I still haven't resolved it. I talked to my wife about how I forgot to talk to the bishop because he was just recently released. And so that was, and she told me not to talk to him about it because it was 3 years ago. So now it's kind of, I don't plan on resolving the conflict since I forgot and I talked to my wife. Because I don't want to just say, oh honey, I gotta do this, it's homework.
Okay, so is there, I'm gonna skip to the end and then we'll come back. Is there a way you can resolve this within yourself, since it's been 3 years ago? Is it eating you?
Is it eating? I think it's annoying. If it would happen again, I would react a little more passionately.
Okay, so let's say that this person who's no longer your bishop invites you and your wife to dinner next week.
I would ask him straightforward, this isn't another sales pitch, is it?
Okay, so what would be a different way you could ask that question?
Using the Casperson model, I would say,
Last time you invited me.
last time you invited me to dinner, it turned out to be a sales pitch, and I didn't like that. And I felt as though developing a relationship was not important, and that hurt my feelings.
That was fantastic.
Okay, great.
Okay, so, yeah, you're absolutely right. 3 years is too long to go back and address that, isn't it? But what you said was really good. You used the model really well to explain your position and how you felt about it without attacking the other person. So that's a lot of what these tools help us to do, isn't it? Help us to be able to articulate what it is that has bothered us about this without attacking anybody, and leave the door open for a return and being able to solve the problem. So I sort of jumped to the end and now I can't remember how to go back and do that again. Anybody have any other ideas of, in this situation, we'll go back and say it wasn't 3 years ago, it was 2 weeks ago that this happened, and what would be some good things that you could do to help resolve this conflict? Okay, maybe we just resolved it already and it's done. Is that, you're feeling pretty good about that?
This isn't gonna work for 3 years.
My current conflict, well, my son is 17 and he's kind of a butt. Sorry, it's just true. I mean, I love him, but he just is 17. He's a teenager, right?
It happens.
And he got really behind on 2 of his classes, and because he got behind, he just decided that he would get F's and take summer school PE.
PE?
Yeah. It's not PE that he's flunking, it's a business class and an English class or something, and he's like, it's fine, I'll just take online PE in the summer.
Online PE?
So, everybody does it, Mom. And I'm like, so my husband and him, there's a lot of testosterone between those 2. So there's a lot of this, and anyway, my husband's like, hey, car gone, phone gone, friends gone, all this stuff gone, and we like totally had this World War whatever. Well, then it got worse, and worse and worse and worse, because he was mad and we were mad and all this stuff, and then for about a week, and then we just sat down and we had a plan.
the next time we talk to him about, we can negotiate this and we can negotiate that, but what are you gonna give us in return? Anyway, so that worked a little better. So we're on week 2, and things are starting to look up. But when we took everything away, which, I mean, that's how I grew up. I had a police officer for a mother, so I didn't get away with anything ever. But he's not like that. It doesn't work that way with him personally. So we just, after a week of seeing that our harshness, because we're so mean, right? But it wasn't working. It wasn't doing anything. We thought maybe it'd motivate him, but it wasn't doing anything. So anyway, after having a plan and sitting down and compromising, it got a little better, and I'm hoping it will keep going in this direction.
I hope it will. Okay, good. So what were some of the things, what were some of the tools that you used to turn this situation around and make it go better? Or anybody pitch in?
Well, we have a friend who's a counselor.
Okay, wonderful.
So we talked to him a little bit because he's always like this. Anyway, just every single year, right after spring break, he's like, I think I'm done. I don't think I need to go to school anymore. I think I'm good. So every year, we expect it. Every year this happens.
Did it start in kindergarten?
Yes. It started at birth.
Spring break.
Not to distract from your scenario, but I should have known that I was in trouble with my youngest son, because the second week of kindergarten, my daughter, who is a year older than him, who was supposed to pick him up after school, came home from school. And I said, where's your little brother? And she said, I went to pick him up and his teacher said he didn't come to kindergarten today. And so I was panicked that someone had stolen my beautiful little child. And I was like calling the neighbors and had an all-out search going on, and called my husband, and I was sure that someone had stolen him, and he was, of course, was the most beautiful little 6-year-old in the world. About 10 minutes into this massive search, he comes skipping happily home. Bill, where were you? At the park. And I said, you were supposed to be at school. Why weren't you at school? He said, I didn't want to go to school today. So he slumped kindergarten in the first week. So I feel your pain with this child. Not to distract, but I honestly understand that situation. Yes, so I knew, we were in trouble from there on out.
Well, just the counselor, he's just a friend of my husband. He just gave us some tools to try to, because you can't work like I'm the boss, you do what I say.
Right.
You can to some extent, but not with this one. He just.
We all have our own personalities, don't we? And so that's one of the things when we're resolving conflict, we have to know who this person is that we're resolving conflict with. And it sounds like with him, you found out that negotiation was one of the best tools to resolving the conflict with him. There's got to be a give and a take, is that?
Yeah. Yeah, like you want your car, you gotta give it. Or I'm sorry, you want to use my car, you need to give me something
Yes.
to use it. And if you, yeah. But online PE, come on.
What is online PE? I'm gonna watch people run.
It's a real thing. But I was like, over my head, we're
Awesome.
Don't do it.
A couple of the common themes within all of the conflicts that I saw mentioned was that they all had to do with marriage, family, friends, or roommate. So and work environment will certainly come into that too as you get out in the work environment. So why do most conflicts resolve around those specific people?
Because we're around them the most?
Because we're around them the most. That's it. And so as you get out in the work environment, especially working as nurses, you may often be working 12-hour shifts. And so if you are with these people for maybe 12 hours, 3 days in a row, and you're having a conflict with them, can you let it go? No, you've got to get it resolved. because it's going to affect your patient care. It's going to affect your job satisfaction. It's going to affect possibly your job and keeping your job and basically the whole happiness of your life. So that's why these tools are so important, to remember that we need to be assertive enough without being aggressive. We need to approach the conflict without attacking the person that we're talking to about it, okay? Are you guys feeling pretty good, or should we go through one quick scenario?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Feeling pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think you did a really great job. I loved reading your discussion, and I think that you offered each other really, really good solutions. Seemed like there was, and Sam is not here. Okay. There was one, read Sam's discussion.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. And one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up, Sam's in a middle management position, which is one of the hardest places to be. Sam and his wife, so I'm going to share his discussion. Sam, hope you're okay with this. Him and his wife are apartment managers. They became apartment managers of a complex where young women live. And if I remember it right, before they moved in, the young women in a specific apartment had overfilled their refrigerator to the point where the refrigerator door would not close. The previous managers had actually brought ice chests down to their apartment and asked these young women to put some of the food in the ice chests because keeping the refrigerator door open was going to break the refrigerator. They didn't do it. The refrigerator broke. The young women in the apartment are wanting the management to pay them for their food that went bad because the refrigerator broke. The owners of the apartment are wanting the young women to pay for a new refrigerator because what they did voided the warranty on the refrigerator. And here is Sam and his wife in the middle. They're the new managers that came after this situation happened. They have the owners of the apartment on one side saying, you make those girls pay for this refrigerator. And they have the girls on the other side saying, you are gonna pay us for our food that went bad. So they're right in the middle, aren't they? They're in the middle of this really ugly conflict. And what are some ideas for Sam to resolve this conflict? So what's up?
I think make the two talk to each other.
Okay.
And they can be the mediator.
They guys need to address.
There's got to be some communication because they're stuck in the middle, aren't they, Ryan?
The hard part for that is then the owner says, Sam, it's your job. That's why I hired you to resolve these conflicts, so I didn't have to deal with them. That's why I'm paying you. So that makes it so Sam has to deal with the situation. But Sam's benefit is that those girls don't live there anymore. So
okay, that part I didn't know.
He doesn't have to kick them out or anything.
They don't live
I think
there.
he resolved it now, though.
Okay.
I think it's done.
Do you know how it got resolved?
I don't know, but his recommendation was that they do some, I think it was you be cooperative or you get your deposit and you leave. And so I thought that was very nice of him. He's gonna give them their full deposit, heck.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, but
depending
short-term
on,
term.
some of these things actually get into legal disputes. So be sure, there was one about rent too. Okay. I can't remember what
That's
was.
the other thing too, is I think Sam said that BYU got involved.
Oh, wow.
And like BYU-I got involved in the whole situation too.
Yeah, sometimes if these could become a legal dispute, be sure that you have taken care of the correct paperwork ahead of time. And like with Sam's, he came into it after it was already happening, so he came into it late. But you may very likely in the near future, probably sooner than you think, be in a middle management type of position where you will have administration telling you, this is what you've got to do, and you'll have the people that report to you saying, hey, I don't like that, I want you to do this. So you've got to be able to learn how to resolve those conflicts. You've got to learn how to be able to say things in a diplomatic way that diffuse the tension and solve the problem. Okay, did that give you enough information, or does it just make it more confusing? Okay, well, we have some guests here that you must be Suzanne.
Yes, I am.
Please come up. And I did tell them that you were coming. Okay, I'm Roman Warbush. And so nice to meet you. Oh, thank you for coming. We're excited to have you here. We get to send all of our students are in, this is their last semester, they'll be graduating in July.
Good luck.
Okay, great. Well, you have the floor.
How's everyone doing today? Ready and excited to graduate? Well, we had called and asked if we might be able just to stop in and talk to you a little bit about a different option in nursing that you may or may not be familiar with. So how many of you are familiar with dialysis? Heard about dialysis? Know anything about dialysis? Maybe a little. So we actually represent a local company. My name is Suzanne Gray. I am the regional recruiter for Fresenius Kidney Care. So I support Eastern Washington, all of Idaho, and all of Utah. And then Joel Grooms is our director of operations for Southern Idaho. So he oversees all of the clinics from the Boise area all the way up here to Idaho Falls. So we're kind of here today to give you a little bit of an overview, talk just a little bit about dialysis, and then to let you know about a new and exciting new graduate residency program that is being piloted in Southern Idaho. So all across our 8 clinics.
So 8 clinics. We also have 5 acute programs. So locally we have Bingham and we also have Port Neuf Hospital. Over in the Boise area we have Vibra, we also have St. Al's, and also West Valley.
So our residency program is geared towards you guys. We hire you right after you graduate. You don't necessarily need to have your nursing license. We have a pathway where we hire you on, and then we actually train you. You go through a pretty extensive training program, and then once you take your boards and you're registered nurses, then you work with a registered nurse for a year, and you learn, you develop, you work as a registered nurse in one of our clinics, and then afterwards you could decide that you want to step into the home therapy world a little bit. You could work in the acutes, which is working in the hospital, but it gives you a different option instead of working in a hospital, working in a nursing home, working in a doctor's office. So we kind of thought we would just put that in front of you, and then I know Joel can probably go into a little more detail about the different clinics in the Southern Idaho area and give you an idea of where they are.
Yeah. So within our clinics, within the RA clinics, we do have different modalities. So we do have your basic in-center hemo dialysis, as well as we have home hemo, and we also have peritoneal. But to kind of elaborate a little bit more on what Suzanne said, I do want to highlight that we would be willing, Fresenius, let me take a step back. Fresenius Kidney Care, as a company, we're very large. We are local, but we are very large. We have 2,500 clinics here in the United States, as well as approximately 67,000 employees. Globally, Fresenius AG, which is the parent company, they're out of Bad Homburg, Germany. They actually employ close to 250,000 employees. And there are other smaller companies which are under the Fresenius AG umbrella. So there's a lot of opportunity, not only here in the United States, but also globally. So here in Southern Idaho, we have a pilot program which we have just been authorized by our corporate team to do.
I apologize for interrupting, but there's something I should have told you at the very beginning. We are being recorded. I just wanted to make sure that you knew.
Oh, I'm going to sit down then.
So here locally, historically Fresenius, as an employer, we have not, rolled the dice, I guess you could maybe put it in that way, with new graduates. We're looking to maybe change that stance. We would really like to take the opportunity to extend opportunities to new grads, and without a license, bring them in, and there's an extensive 3-month period where we train you specifically in dialysis services. After that, we are hoping by that time you will have taken your boards and passed your boards. And I know everybody in here will. And after you've taken your boards, then there is a year period where you are mentored, where you are developed in dialysis services. So, in a hospital, if you go in, after a period of time, they will cut you loose. We are mandated by what they call the conditions for coverage, which are CMS's regulations, to make sure that any new nurse, especially new graduate nurses, are with another nurse or under another nurse for at least 12 months. Now, after that 12-month period, we are then able to operationally then use you in a capacity where you can work by yourself. So that's why we're calling it a residency, because there is that 12-month period where you as nurses would still have to be underneath another nurse. So that's where we wanted, and to elaborate again on what Suzanne said, we want to continue to partner with local universities and nursing programs to make sure that you know that there are other options out there besides nursing homes or hospitals. But dialysis, I mean, this is kind of a bittersweet thing, but the industry is growing rapidly. It's growing quite quickly. And just this last year, I believe that our company grew at over 5%. Right now, I believe we have close to 400,000 patients, and it's continuing to grow. So there's chronic, and then there's also what they call CKD, which are patients who aren't coming into our centers, but they have a GFR of greater than, they're in stage maybe 4, they're not stage 5. So our CKD population, if you were to add that in, we could have close to 700,000 patients just within Fresenius.
Could you explain what that means? About
CKD?
Those patients, yeah.
So CKD, those are typically patients who are being followed by physicians. So they may come in, maybe their creatinine levels are elevated, and you have a nephrologist who are following these patients. It's not until they get to a GFR of below 15 that we start to actually look at bringing them in-center to receive dialysis services. So the industry is rapidly growing, and like I said, that's kind of bittersweet because we would love to see more people not be on this, but it is a reality, and there are some very staggering numbers out there where when we look at the #1 contributor to end-stage renal is type 2 diabetes, and our type 2 diabetic population is growing and is growing quite rapidly. So when we kind of look and when we correlate the two, we can see that there's going to be a large need now and in the future. So we're as Fresenius, we're trying to get in front of this because we're going to continue to need or have a need for nurses.
And one of the nice things about working in a dialysis center, whether you're working in the center itself and or you're working in the home therapy program, is you really get to develop those relationships with your patients. I've worked in hospitals, I've worked in nursing homes, I worked for a hospice company, and now I work for dialysis. And like 9 out of 10 times, the nurses that we hire, the social workers, the patient care techs, they're all looking for that opportunity to like really connect with their patients. And they find that working in a dialysis center really gives them that opportunity to develop that rapport, because your patients most likely come in on a 3-day cycle. It's either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So you get to know your patients, you get to know the team, you see the same patients. And as the registered nurse on the floor, you really get to put all of your skill set into play. I mean, you look at the labs, you make recommendations to the physician. They count on you really to help, guide the patient's care. So if you're looking for that type of interaction, then you might want to consider a career in dialysis. That affords that to you. And then if you come into our program, and after your 1-year residency program is up, you decide that you want to try working in home therapy, well, that gives you a whole set of different patients to follow. You really work a lot with the education component and working with the patients. What is dialysis? What do they need to know? To be compliant, you work very closely with the dietitian, the social worker. There's a lot of patient education with their care provider, because home therapy, dialysis, you teach the patient what they need to know to then dialyze in their home. It's not a situation where you, the nurse, go to their home and hook them up. You teach them the skills that they need. You evaluate them. You meet with them on a regular basis to make sure that they are being compliant. What type of care plan changes do they need? How are their labs coming back? All of that allows you to put everything you've learned about the disease state, working as a nurse together. So it really is a nice opportunity. And as Joel mentioned, you might start out, working in Idaho and then decide that you want to make a move, personally, professionally. You just want to see the country. You can apply for a position in any one of our other clinics that's open. I mean, we've successfully transitioned people from Pennsylvania, Texas, California, Washington. I mean, they move internally. Some of it is just they want to see something new and experience a new part of dialysis. So maybe they're working in the clinic in one area, but they really want to work in home therapy, so they make the move. Or we've relocated folks for personal reasons. They have family members that really need them, so they look for an opportunity in that area. We've been successful to help them. So they come to a different clinic, but then they're closer to the family that's in need. So that's the nice thing. You can stay a part of the Fresenius family. Start out in the clinic, work your way. If you want to be a clinic manager, you can become a clinic manager. Maybe one of you will someday take Joel's job as director. Who knows if you have aspirations to get into management. RVP, we do a lot of internal promotions, so really your ambition is the only thing that limits you.
So you mentioned it's an international company. Are there international opportunities as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, you could travel.
Yeah, Fresenius.
See the world if you want.
Yeah, Fresenius, not only do we provide more than just dialysis services. We're, to use a business term, we're very vertically integrated. So when we look at the services, there are machines involved in that service. So we actually, Fresenius, builds and creates the machines. There are line sets and needles. Fresenius creates the supplies as well. In Ogden, there is a plant that creates our what we call the artificial kidney. So we create that. So from a business standpoint and just from a job standpoint, I know that probably most of you are in here and have a passion for patients and providing care to patients. But there are many opportunities within Fresenius. To piggyback on what Suzanne said, because we're so vertically integrated, you could go into management. We have a internal pharmacy. We have mid-level, senior level positions, and so there is a lot of opportunity. Honestly, there is.
There is, and if you like education, if that is something that your passion lies, educating. We also have clinical educators, and they actually are seasoned dialysis nurses, and they train all of our new nurses that come in, all of our patient care techs. They work a little bit with our social workers and our dietitians, so there's that career path as well. And we've transitioned some of our nurses into education coordinators, we call them, and then some of those folks have become clinic managers. So there really is a nice crossover. It just, once you find your niche, there usually is something in Fresenius that will speak to you, and you can kind of direct your career path that way.
We've even had presidents of our company who were nurses, who went back on being nurses. And what I think is so wonderful about that is that we keep the patients and the quality that we provide as the center of our service. So putting our patients first to us is paramount. Because I believe that if we have good patient care and if we provide a wonderful service, it will help drive our bottom line. Are there any questions about dialysis or about our company?
So what is your contract exactly if you send one as like a new grad student?
So there is no like formalized contract. I mean, we hope that you, if you're to be hired on, that you wouldn't want it to just be a job, but you would want for it to be a career.
Right, so it's not as if you have to,
So you don't, like, if you do that 3
sign on for 2 years. No, I mean, it's a year-long program. And we, as Joel said, we would hope that, your commitment would be for that year, and then after that, find your home, so to speak, in the different modalities that we offer, but it's not something where you have to sign on the dotted line or, anything
In a lot of hospitals, what they'll do is they'll have new grads sign like a 2-year contract. We do not have, we don't have anything in place where we're saying you are obligated for this period of time. Yes?
So say we decide to go that direction, how would we get in contact with you? Do you have like a flyer or pamphlet?
I do have a
We do have a flyer.
Awesome.
And we will leave them.
Okay, perfect.
It has my email address on it, so, and I can give you my cell phone number. You can call me, text me, you can email me if you're interested, and then we can talk about the next steps, in the process, and get you in for an interview, with our clinic manager, and then talk about whatever clinic you're interested in, if it's here or in a different one. Absolutely. Yeah. You're welcome.
What are the clinic hours? I know my mom did dialysis nursing and she had was really early to really late, so I don't know, what are the clinic hours?
So operationally, I mean, we do have some facilities who we have technicians who will come in at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. The nurse will show up at 5. I mean, for you nurses, they typically come in a touch later. They're not opening up, we call it opening up the facility, but that's where somebody comes in and then they get the water ready. Because the water is a very integral part of the service which we provide. That's what helps provide our, what we call dialysate, and it runs across our artificial kidney to help filter and pull fluids off of the body. So we have somebody who comes in, they'll open up the water system, and then the nurse will come in a touch later, 4:45, 5, and then work into I heard what you said about 12-hour days. 12-hour days are, I mean, they are a reality. And typically they work 3.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious, so I noticed that you do have facilities in Hawaii, which is my eventual goal to go back home. What would be the length and process of working here and then being able to transfer to possibly a job there?
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, Hawaii they have some really big needs. It's a state where they see a lot of dialysis patients. So what that would look like is you would work here for a year. We would train you, develop you after your 12 months, and if you wanted to transfer, we would transfer you over. I know that they have sites in Hilo. They have them in Honolulu. I mean, I want to say they have facilities on 4 islands. I know Kauai, I know Maui, the Big Island.
I think I know Oahu too.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
So honestly, one of my biggest concerns after schooling is paying off all my loans.
Mm-hmm.
What is the starting rate?
So, I actually thought you were going to ask a different question. No. So just to give you guys an idea, when you come on, I mean, a full suite of benefits. So a medical, vision, dental, 401k match. So wonderful company. I've been with the company going on 7 years. And I have loved it, and I've started at the bottom and grown up with the company. So I like
started at?
Yeah.
So Joel started as a patient care tech.
So
And now he's director of operations for Southern Idaho.
In 7
In
years.
7 years. So when I say like it's only your ambition that limits you, I mean, here's a perfect, example of someone who started and had that ambition, that drive, and now, who knows where he's gonna end up.
So to answer your question, I will answer it the best way that I can. We have a compensation department who will look at your previous experience. And based upon your previous experience, and maybe you have something before this, maybe some CNA, or maybe there's nothing. But they will typically provide a range for these new graduates coming in. Now, in speaking with our HR department, we are trying to be as competitive as we can with the hospitals. So we're looking at lower to middle 20s. And once you become a nurse, once you pass your boards, then we can actually move you up to a nursing wage.
Right, we can't put you at that wage immediately because you're waiting to pass your boards. So we'll bring you in and then adjust you once you have taken your boards and passed.
Is there any additional continuing education that you would need to be a dialysis nurse? Or is it just a normal continuing education just to renew your nursing license?
So for Sinius as a company, we provide continuing education.
Okay.
And we will, there are classes which we provide internally.
Okay.
Could you talk a little bit more about the nurse residency program, what's included in that?
Sure. So within, from an operational standpoint, when we look at the nurse residency program, we will train, so there will be a 3-month period where we train the nurses in the dialysis specific kind of service. After that, in our facilities there will be another nurse, and underneath that nurse, so if one of you were to be hired on, we would give you what we call a pod. So a patient, a set of patients, maybe 4 or 5 patients, which would be your patients to oversee, to pass meds on, to initiate treatments, to write plans of care, to discontinue treatment, and you'd also be involved in our what we call our QA process, and that's just our quality improvement, or we call it QAI, or some people call it QAPI, but it's continuous quality improvement. And we have monthly meetings, and we can look at bringing you in and having the nurses a part of that process as well.
And that 13-week training program, so you don't need to ever have any type of dialysis experience. We will train you. You actually learn what is dialysis, the different types of dialysis, how do you set up the machine, what do you need to know about the water treatment in the water room. There's quizzes, there's tests, you work with a preceptor during that 13-week. It's very formatted, it's very structured. You have designated time when you're in the classroom with the educator, and then you have time on the floor where you're with your preceptor. And then, as Joel mentioned, then you're gradually moved into working on your own. However, you're always with a registered nurse. So once you go through that 13-week training program, it's not as if, okay, like you're on your own, you need to be mentored by a nurse. That nurse is always going to be there when you are there. So you're never going to be alone during that whole year. Because as Joel mentioned, it's all based on the regulations that we need to follow. So you have a nurse with you at all times. You're functioning in a more independent role, but that person is going to be there just to make sure everything's moving along. If you have any questions, You would be involved, as Joel mentioned, in the different meetings, you know, care planning. I mean, these, you know, essentially are your patients.
So you mentioned that this company provides the education. Is this, so from moving up from a tech, you had to learn a lot more things, and so is there any time that you had to get additional education outside of the company, or did they just provide trainings to you to learn how to do dialysis, if you do know how, at the nursing level, or leadership and management, business kind of roles from where you're at right now?
Great question. So Fresenius has a very robust training and education system, and we have what we call CLPD, which is Center for Leadership and Development. So if you did want to get into leadership, there are trainings, there are classes that we have on our intranet that are provided, and so most all is provided internally. For example, Fresenius has a team who will go around and talk to managers about like Lean Six Sigma. I'm not sure if you've heard of that term, but it's looking at productivity, it's looking at process improvement, and actually myself, I've been through that, and so I am a facilitator of Lean Six Sigma courses. Does that answer your question?
Do you provide opportunities for like nurse practitioner? Like say for example, I want to continue my education after this, so could I like start out with that and then
so great question. So to answer your question, yes. And Fresenius will help you along the way. There is tuition reimbursement for people who are wanting to continue their education past just being a nurse.
Is that limited to positions in Fresenius?
No. If you can show that the courses you're taking are in some way impacting or better developing you, then Fresenius will assist in paying for those courses. Anything else? So we're really, I know that Suzanne, we're both really excited that it's been, I know for myself, when I came to Southern Idaho about 2.5 years ago, this is something which I have really been trying to work on and push forward, and we finally got the green light to do it.
It's very exciting.
And for a company as large as Fresenius is, we feel like this is a huge win, and for us to be piloting this in Southern Idaho, I think it's very cool.
And just to let you know, I don't live in Idaho, I live in Missouri, so they said, yes, fly out, you know, like, this is important to us, this pilot program is hugely important, so they, you know, paid for me to come out to talk to everyone, and so there is a huge commitment from senior leadership with the pilot program. So, and it's a beautiful country, I mean, it's a beautiful state, I've never been here before, but it's beautiful. I love it.
We're thrilled that you're here when the weather's good.
Yeah, that's what everybody said. I mean, it's beautiful in the mountains and the valleys.
And feel free, I mean, we have centers in Idaho Falls, we have building a brand new facility in Blackfoot, and also Pocatello. Feel free, if you would like to come by and look at the facility, you would be more than welcome.
Absolutely, like a short shout out, just, you know, let us know, be happy to arrange that, so you can actually see a clinic, and I know we're getting short on time.
I was just checking to see if our other guests was here yet, and I'm not seeing him yet, so I'll look and you're welcome.
And I mean, all of our clinic managers would welcome the opportunity to show you around, explain a little bit more. You know, you get to see the patients and the interaction. I mean, absolutely, if you think you might have an interest, you know, just let us know.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that this pilot, so if we start this, we'll be the very first ones in July or August to begin this pilot program.
You got it.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that exciting to be like part of something groundbreaking?
Groundbreaking.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. And good luck.
Yes, it's fine if we can just switch over users.
And I'll give these to you. Thank you so much.
I'll be sure to get these flyers to you after class. Okay? And we have Steve Davis here from our alumni office that's going to present on LinkedIn and networking, and you mentioned the Power to Be Confident. Okay, great.
Okay, so we go for till 12:15, right? Publish.
Yep.
Yes, quarter after, so we've got half an hour.
Now, who are the folks I just called?
Okay, they came from Fresenius Kidney Care. They came to talk about opportunities in dialysis.
Hey, wave to the people on camera.
Okay, so how are all of our soon-to-be, you guys are like seniors, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
Registered nurses?
Yes.
This is the easiest group I get to talk to because one of the challenges we have at BYU Idaho is what we call graduate placement levels. 54% is our university level. So what's the percent? You're 100%, right?
Oh, yeah.
100%. How many of you already have your, once you graduate, job lined up? Maybe?
I don't know, we'll see how this dialysis thing is.
Okay.
Some of them have just started their preceptorships though, and their preceptor sites love them.
Yeah, and that's often what leads to
Yeah.
getting hired. Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to talk just quickly about networking and LinkedIn. How many of you have LinkedIn accounts? Okay, how many of you don't have a LinkedIn account? All right, I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why to have LinkedIn. One reason is it is a great tool to find people to network with. Another reason, it is a great way to connect other professionals. There are great nursing groups out there, there's great medical, whatever you're interested in, you'll be able to connect with the people out there. So let me just introduce you briefly to what LinkedIn is. So how many of you are on Facebook? Okay, so most of you. So if you were to make an analogy, a comparison between LinkedIn and Facebook, LinkedIn is similar to Facebook in that there's 2 main parts to your LinkedIn page. One is your home page. On my LinkedIn homepage, this is just people in my network and what they're sharing. It leans a little more professional. And on Facebook, you have your timeline, which is where you post things about yourself. On LinkedIn, it's my profile page. And on my profile page is where I can tell people my professional story. Steve Davis, the alumni director of BYU Idaho. I recently wrote a book, a couple things like that, my experience, my education, things that hopefully will help people know who I am. Now, under my summary on my LinkedIn page, I have a presentation that we give about networking. So if you're on LinkedIn, I invite you to connect with me and we can talk about how to best use this tool. So if I was to ask you the question, what is networking? What is networking to you guys? What is networking?
Marketing.
Marketing. Marketing who?
Yourself.
Yourself, excellent. Okay, what else is networking? Any ideas?
Making connections.
Making connections? Okay. Any other thoughts on networking? All right. Well, this is our definition of networking. We think networking is these steps. Networking is about finding the right people to ask the right questions to. If you find the right people and you ask them good questions, it will lead to these 3 things. One is you will have more confidence that you're on the right career path. And in nursing, there's all sorts of career paths, right? I mean, you're just not all working at some doctor's office, right? Or ER or, neonatal or whatever. There's all sorts of paths to go to. And you will also build relationships that will open doors of opportunity. But it starts with finding the right people to ask the right questions to. Now, these numbers aren't going to mean as much to you guys because of what program you're in. Now, if I'm over here at the Sporty building talking to the PR kids or the comm kids, or if I'm over in the Snow building talking to theater and music, they have to work harder to land a really good job. You guys are in a very marketable, high-demand area, so this is not going to mean as much. But the bottom line is, most jobs, 80% of jobs that are open are never advertised. Even in the nursing field, they're going to be found through networking. 250 is the average number of applicants for a corporate job in America. 50% of the openings are never advertised, and they're typically going to interview about 3 people. So the challenge that our students face is that could be your resume at the bottom of that stack, and friends hire friends. And I'm sure Sister Forbes, even in the nursing world, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, friends hire. Now, a lot of times when we talk about networking, we hear this term. Networking is about who you know. Well, what we've discovered is networking is about who knows you and what you have to offer. And we want to teach people that in order to get a really good job, there are 3 steps. 1, you should have a really good resume. And what your LinkedIn profile is basically your resume online. And so you should have a stunning, great LinkedIn profile. We want you to spend time networking, and then you might need to look for openings and submit applications. But where you should spend most of your time is right here, looking for openings and submitting applications. I just saw a statistic 2 days ago that 51% of people in America, college graduates, are underemployed, meaning they're in a job that is not what their degree would say they would be in. They are in a job that didn't require what their degree is. So what we're finding is people who do a good job networking are finding better opportunities. Now, we've been kind of telling people about this talk. Who's seen Christopher Galbraith's talk?
Oh.
One. What class did you see it in?
I think it was career exploration.
Career exploration. Okay. So you have to be quiet for a minute.
Okay.
So, but this can apply to any career area, and it can apply to nursing as well. Christopher, when he spoke at the first Power to Become conference, and he shared his story, he wanted to get a job on Wall Street from BYU, Idaho. The more he researched and the more he found that Wall Street does not come to Rexburg to recruit. Okay? They go to Harvard, Dartmouth, and Yale, and Princeton, not BYU, Idaho. So he says, how am I going to get to Wall Street? So, and I want you guys to think this. I tell you the story. How could this apply to you in nursing? So Christopher talked to his BYU, Idaho business professor, Brother Holt, and he got one name. One name. So he said, all right, I'm going to do it. He bought a plane ticket. He flew out to New York City. He had one person to meet with. Before that trip, he got a couple names off of that person. He had like 3 people to meet with. He's going to be in New York City for about 5 days. He wants to network into Wall Street. So except for you, the rest of you, you landed in New York City. You want to network into the top hospitals in New York City or Wall Street. What are you guys going to do? Go there, talk to him.
Yeah.
So picture Christopher at 22, he looked like he was 15.
Yes, he's a little cute little sugar city boy.
Yeah. Okay. So what do? Walk in. They're going to ask, are you here to deliver the mail? Okay, so other ideas. That's how you got to go there. What else do you think? All? Okay. So Christopher, you land in New York City on a Saturday. Your first full day in New York City is Sunday. What do? Go to church. That's what Christopher did. He went to church. He got there early. He cornered the missionaries. He said to the missionaries, I don't know if they're elders or sisters, point out to me everybody that walks into this room that works on Wall Street. They pointed them out. Christopher just walked up and shook their hands. Hi, my name's Christopher. I'm out here from BYU, Idaho. Could I come meet with you just for a few minutes to learn about your career? And he did that for 2 blocks of meetings. For the next 5 days, he's racing all over New York City, Lower Manhattan, at Wall Street, talking to LDS people, right people, asking the right questions about their jobs on Wall Street. He comes back to Rexburg. He has some good connections. He comes into my office. And I said, how'd it go? He said, well, no job offers, no internships, but I have some good contacts. And I learned a lot of lessons. Some things not to do the second time. He went out 4 months later, and this time he has connections who are introducing him to people. And on trip 2, he is interviewed by 3 companies, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, and he gets 3 job offers on Wall Street. Okay? Now the amazing thing is Christopher got 3 job offers on Wall Street, and he never submitted an application. Okay? Now when Christopher gave his talk at Power to Become, in the audience is Breyer. Breyer comes into my office on Monday, and he says, I want to do what Christopher did at Nike. Now Christopher used the LDS Church Network. For Breyer, we used LinkedIn. We got on LinkedIn, we found that we had 4 BYU-I alumni working at Nike headquarters, and 7 from Provo. He connected with them on LinkedIn, he went out to Beaverton, he interviewed them, and he got a job offer at Nike. Now what we're discovering is there's lots of avenues and ways to get a job, but when you apply for a job, everybody's hoping for at least a screener interview. A screener interview is when somebody from some company, some hospital, doctor's clinic, whatever, dialysis place, is going to call you and ask more questions. And they're going to determine, do you get an interview? Well, what Christopher did and what Breyer did following Christopher's lead is they all went out and they did their own screener interview. They talked to professionals and they asked them good questions. So the informational interview is the process, and what this is it's basically you connecting with people, and we always say when you do a screener interview, don't ask for a job. That's going to be apparent through the process what you're looking for. So this is the key. Identify the information you want, find connections, lots of ways to do that. Make an appointment, be professional, be courteous, show interest, be prepared to answer questions, get names, say thank you, follow up, and follow up with referral requests. Now, since our first Power to Become conference in 2014, we've been teaching this hard on campus. We did this 105 times last year on campus to different groups. We've been doing that for like 4 years now. And what we're finding is that we're hearing people come back and they say, I did it, and we're finding that there's 2 groups. It worked or it didn't work. But the good news is we're finding out what is the difference for the people that this works for and what is the difference for those who don't. And this is the key. It's in 9 and 10. So let's picture Christopher. He's in New York City. He meets with Bob at Credit Suisse. Bob and him spend 20 minutes together. They have a great conversation. They shake hands. They leave. And it was a really positive thing. Positive for both people. Christopher comes back to Rexburg. Bob goes back to work. How long do you think it is before Bob forgets about Christopher? Not very long. Yeah. So this is the key. Bob gets an email from Christopher an hour later that says thank you. A couple days later in the mail he gets a handwritten note. And then this is the real important part. So in Bob's interview with Christopher interviews Bob. Bob says to Christopher, you should go meet Jim. What does Christopher do? What does he do after he meets Jim? He returns and reports to Bob. Bob says to Christopher, you should read this book or read this article or visit this webpage. What does Christopher do? Does it, and he returns and reports. Through the informational interview, Christopher and Bob discover they have some common interests. BYU football, fly fishing, motorbiking, I don't know, something. And then, later on, Christopher finds a reason not to be pestering and not to be a nuisance, but once in a while, he'll reach out to Bob, send him a text. Hey, did you see the score of the game? Or I found this really cool new thing. Well, through that process, Christopher and Bob become what? Friends. Okay? And Christopher and Bob, second trip, hires Christopher. So here's the questions, and if you think about this in your line of work, you meet with the right person and you ask these questions. How did you get involved in Credit Suisse, Nike, XYZ Hospital? What advice did you give me if I wanted to be successful in line of work? What do you love about what you do? Where did you study? Go to school, interests, hobbies, books. What inspires you? Where do you see yourself in the future? Anything I can do for you? And who else you know that I should be talking to? Well, as you go through this process, what happens is Christopher goes to a church in New York City. He meets Bob. Bob is, wait for the picture. Bob is just a name. They shake hands. Through the informational interview, Bob and Christopher become friends. And that's helped by the fact that Christopher's professional, he's curious, he says thank you, and he follows up. And then Bob hires Christopher. Or Bob recommends to whoever's hiring, they hire Christopher. So any thoughts on this? How, in just a minute, how could this apply to nurses? I'm not sure. That's perfect.
She wasn't sure what you said.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Could this work in the medical field?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I'll tell you about Christopher. You know, you're going to land your first great nursing job. But is that the end? No, you want to move up or move over or get a different experience. You're never not networking. And so even when you get that great nursing job, and let's say it's in whatever place, and you're saying to yourself, you know, I'd really like to be in that job. Well, go interview that person in that job. Get to know them. Have that person become your mentor. And then it's going to help you as you progress professionally. Now, LinkedIn is just a tool for two things I mentioned before. One, it's a good tool for finding people, and it's a good tool to find professionals who are like you that you can learn from. There are 470 million people on LinkedIn. 23 million of the people on LinkedIn are recruiters. They are going to be out looking for people just like you. And so the second that you create a LinkedIn page and it's live, it is going to show up in search and it will be seen by recruiters. Now the way LinkedIn works is you are building a network, but you can only connect with people who are inside your network. Your network is made up of 1s, 2s, 3s, and group members. So if you're on LinkedIn and we connect, you and I become first connections. All of my rest of my network is going to be either your second or thirds. And then there's groups. You could find the perfect person out there on LinkedIn, and if they're not part of your network, you will not be able to connect with them. It'll just say LinkedIn member. That's it, LinkedIn member. Okay? Can't connect. So in order to connect with them, you have to grow your network. You have to increase your 1s and join groups. The more you have 1s, the more seconds and thirds you have, more groups. Pretty soon, that person's either a second or a third or a group member, and now you can connect with them. Now, I'm going to go through this pretty fast. I want to show you how to search on LinkedIn. We have on our BYU Idaho alumni homepage, we have almost 400 now super connectors. There are people who have big networks that are all alumni. So I'm on that list, and if you add me, I have 16,000 first connections, of which I know about 300 of them really, but I'm connected to them. My 16,000 ones will become your 2s. I have 3 million 2s, they'll become your 3s. So your network grows by 3 million people. So go out there, add a few super connectors, then the next time you go and search, you'll be able to find these people. So let's show you how to do that. So here's LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, there's one search button. Now, there used to be several ways to search. There's now only 2 ways. If I'm going to search LinkedIn, I could go in and I could say, I want people who are in nursing, people with the skills nursing. Okay? I could also say I want to find the people who are nurses, people with the title nurse. So you probably want to do it one way with nursing, one way with nurse. Let's do people with the skills nursing. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. Then over here, I'm going to have all of these filters. Okay, so I want to find all the people that are at BYU Idaho, from BYU Idaho. Let's go to schools, BYU Idaho. So I'm going to get BYU Idaho, skilled in nursing, 394 first connections. Now 988. Now this is going to say at least 1,000. So we have over 1,000 people who've gone to school here that are in nursing. And you can see that my first connections, it'll say message. My second connections, it'll say connect. So there's a nursing student. Is Callie in here? Probably not. Nursing faculty. DJ. So you guys know someone?
Jameson.
Jameson, which one? Right here? Dixie. All right, let's do Dixie. Let's say I wanted to connect with Dixie. She teaches here. Sounds right? Yeah. So I'm going to hit connect. Now, if Dixie knows me well, I'm gonna hit send now, but Dixie doesn't know me. So I'm gonna add a note. If you don't know these people but you wanna connect, you should always add a note. Now, this is the note that we recommend that you send. Let's just skip ahead. So I'm gonna say, hello Dixie, I am a BYU-I student and I found your profile on LinkedIn. I admire your career in nursing and hope to pursue a similar path. Would you be willing to connect with me and possibly offer some advice by email or phone? I would greatly appreciate your time. This message is doing three things. One, it tells Dixie how I found her, LinkedIn. Two, why I want to connect, I'm interested in nursing. Okay? And three, I would love to talk with Dixie. The talking with Dixie is the informational interview. Okay? And that's how you're going to connect. Does that make sense? So, back to Dixie. Let's look at a couple others. Nursing student, interim nursing co-director at Concord Hospital. That'd be a good one, Boston. So I also can go into her profile, and there's a connect button here. Okay. So sometimes, and I don't know why LinkedIn is this way. Sometimes, for some people on LinkedIn, if they hit connect, it doesn't give you a chance for a message. So if that's the case, you have to go into their profile. Now, the way LinkedIn works, you're going to have more thirds than anything else. It's just the way it works. Now, a third is going to be like Kurt, Director of Nursing in Provo. It's going to say InMail. Okay, InMail stands for LinkedIn email. Now, the problem with LinkedIn email is it costs money. If I pay $29 a month, I can send 5 InMails a month. If I pay $70 a month, I can send 10. If I'm not a premium subscriber to LinkedIn, then this is going to cost you per message like $10. But there's a way around it. So I'm going to click on Kurt's name. It's still going to say send email. I don't want to do that, it's expensive. But these little 3 dots up here, click on that. There's a connect button. Okay. So click connect. You're shaking your head. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But it works. Okay. Add a note. Send them a message. All right. Let's forge ahead on a couple things. There's a couple other ways to search, but for the sake of time, that is the best way to search that I just showed you. Okay. Now, the next part about LinkedIn is you want to use it to tell your story. This is Ariana's profile. Okay. There's a couple really important things here. Remember, as you have this profile, it's going to tell people who you are and what you're about. The most important thing on your profile is your headline. Your headline is, most of you, if you're on LinkedIn, this says BYU-I student. BYU-I student in what? Nursing? Marketing? I don't know. So say it. BYU-I student, nursing major, seeking connections. Now you guys are about ready to graduate. So I would say talented nursing professional, that's not the right word. Talented nurse, professional, exceptional nurse, I don't know. BYU-Idaho graduate, seeking opportunities. Okay. Now, the other thing on here is your picture. Your picture is a first impression. The temptation is to just grab something you posted recently on Facebook, stick it up there. Well, we want to make it easy for you. Every day from 8 to 5 in MC 175, we will take your LinkedIn picture for free. By the way, my name is Steve Davis. My sister Forbush, also from Cheers. But add that, used to be in her ward, Rexburg 15th ward, for a long time.
Yes.
Very moved. So anyway, we'll take your picture for free every day from 8 to 5. You still in 15th ward?
Yeah.
Okay, it's great work. All right, the next part is also part of your top box is your summary. This is me in 2 seconds. This is me in 30 seconds. I'm going to tell my story, who I'm about, what I'm seeking, my goals, my skills. Tell your story in your summary. Just a couple other things. Experience is a really important part of your profile. We want you to tell who you're about, but it doesn't say necessarily work experience. You have volunteer opportunities. You're all nursing students. Is there a nursing society?
Yes.
You're probably part of the nursing society. List everything related to nursing or medical, what you're interested in, and your experience, even the things that you haven't been paid for. All right, skills and endorsements, that's where you list what you're good at, people vote for you, education, volunteering causes, projects, publications, personal information. Now I'm going to do this really fast. I could show you this slide, but I'm going to pretend, we're just going to do it. I want to pretend that I'm a recruiter. If I'm a recruiter, I'm going to go onto LinkedIn, and I'm going to do exactly what I just did. I'm going to do a nursing search. I'm going to do BYU Idaho. Do we still have that up? No, BYU Idaho. So I'm a recruiter at a hospital. I want to find the perfect person to hire. Okay? 1,000+ people. That means there's 10 pages more at least. No, there's 100 pages with 10 people each. Do you think recruiters are going to go to page 7? No. So how did Sheehan, Abigail, Callie, Dixie, James, Sarah, Kara, you'll notice 38 shared connections is beating, oh, this is not working. It doesn't matter. She's got 250. You might think that it's shared connections that gives you the top. It's not. It's your activity on LinkedIn. The more active you are on LinkedIn, the higher you're going to go up in search. Add people, join groups, follow companies, endorse people, like people. Okay. All right. Just a couple more slides. Yes, question.
So with my firsts, usually, I don't know if I'm being too picky, but I don't add anyone to my LinkedIn unless I know who they are personally and I would like to work with them.
Yeah.
And so I've heard other people going about it a different way, and they've got hundreds to thousands, and I've got about 50 that I know. So what is your thought on how to
So it
determine?
depends what you want to do with LinkedIn. If those 50 give you all the networking contacts you need, you're perfectly fine. If you need more than that, I would add more. My rule for me is I add anybody that has one of two things. They're either in alumni relations, my profession, or they're part of BYU Idaho. So, and most of them I don't know. But I also do it for this reason, because I want to be able to give to people, students, you students, my connections. Does that answer your question? All right, I got 2 minutes, and I got 1 minute for 2 topics. This is another important factor. You can sell yourself on LinkedIn. 87% of your potential employers are going to look up your LinkedIn profile, and 55% will look up your Facebook page. So don't do a great job of selling yourself, and don't hurt yourself by what you put on Facebook, or Twitter, or Instagram, or Pinterest. Now, our job at BYU Idaho is to help you. I'm going to just pass the cards around. I know I'll pass up too many, but I'll grab those extras at the end. Is to help you learn some skills that will help you professionally. 3 main areas. Learn how to discover your passion, to be a great networker, and to be able to market yourself. Every other semester we host Power to Become. Who's been to Power to Become before? A couple people, okay. May 19th is our next event, 2 weeks from tomorrow. By the way, from 10 to 2 tomorrow, in front of the library, we're doing free hot dogs.
Yeah.
Don't bring lunch tomorrow.
10 to 3.
You can have a hot dog. So just go there for a hot dog, and we'll try to sell you a pizza ticket, but we won't make you buy a pizza ticket. So here's our speaker lineup this time. We have President Irene, Coach Kalani Sataki, the BYU head football coach. Art Rascone, these are all alumni of this group. Art Rascone is the MC. He is a lead anchor for CBS News in Houston, and he has 20 Emmys. Carlos Carrasco came here to BYU Idaho, then went to Harvard. He works at Microsoft, mechanical engineering. James Mormon knows how to tell a story about better than anybody else. He's a top YouTuber right now, James Coran. Deanna Murphy is the CEO of Strength Strategy. She's actually, when she speaks, she charges $10,000 a speech. She's donating her time for our conference. And then Josh Don is just named by Forbes magazine as one of the top 25 entrepreneurs in the world. But so the conference is $10. That includes these 6 great talks, kind of like TED Talks. It includes dinner, and then we have the Deborah Bonner Gospel Unity Choir singing. All right, any questions? I'm out of time. So I want to see every one of you. I know you all have classes from 10 to 2?
No.
All right, you have a break. I want you guys for a hot dog.
What time is the conference?
It goes from 5 to 9:30. Yeah. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys. We'll see you tomorrow for hot dogs.
Darn right.
Okay, you guys did great. I think this was kind of exciting, having these guests come to speak, and we'll have more great guests in weeks to come. And appreciate you guys. Great questions. Yes, Ryan?
Is there any possibility that we could do a LinkedIn instead of an e-portfolio? I just feel like the the LinkedIn looks like it's going to be able to be more beneficial to us because people can look us up on LinkedIn rather than.
Well, I don't think we can change the requirement for class right now.
Yeah.
But one thing I can tell you is everything you do for your e-portfolio will translate very well to LinkedIn. You can have your very professional resume, and you can put that on your LinkedIn profile, so that all work together really well.
It's just really complicated.
I'm already done with my complicated. Need to go on more often, I guess.
What?